stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, happy day, friends. It is Soul Wanderings Night, where we receive an opportunity to hear journey stories from humans from all walks of life, all types of experiences. And these humans show up to share authentic pieces of themselves with all of us. I am AJ Rasmussen, your host. Hello. Excited to be here with you tonight. We are live with a new guest. We have another fun show planned for us. And I just know it's going to keep us all intrigued and intoxicated for more. So I think we should just get into it. How about it, friends?
Yeah.
Tonight, yeah, our guest even says so. Tonight, I am so excited to introduce you to Janel. Vitale. She's a content creator and coach for shame-free relationships and sexual empowerment. Her purpose is to give people permission and the tools to be more free to be themselves in their love and sex lives. After 14 years in Catholic school, her personal struggle to embrace her unconventional sexuality and relationship orientation as not quite straight, non-monogamous person, it led her to become a sex and relationship coach. Now her passion is empowering others to let go of shame and fear about their desires and communicate openly about their needs and boundaries. What did I tell you, Wanderers? Intriguing, right? I'm so ready for this. Please welcome to the show our guest, Janel Vitale.
Hi, it's so wonderful to be here.
It is so good to have you here, giggles and all.
Yeah, I love giggling. I'm definitely going to be giggling a lot.
That's good. I giggle a lot. I've been giggling all before the show. I'm like, hey, bring it down a few notches. We don't need to laugh the whole entire show.
Oh, why not? People need joy, AJ. People need joy.
Oh, no, I agree. But we also need to talk. It is talk radio.
I know.
Although 2 hours of giggling, I'm sure we could get a few to join us.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, you never know. So I'm just so excited to have you here. Just so you all know, I found this lovely lady on TikTok.
Yeah.
You make a lot of TikToks.
I sure do.
And in those middle of the night hours when I can't sleep, it's a good one to just go and watch. And I follow so many amazing people who are inspirational and sharing their truth. And I just love that. And you were one of those people that stood out to me. I was like, yes, a woman in her power. I love that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really love creating content on TikTok and Instagram, especially also on YouTube. It's so fun for me to share my story and have people be helped by it, and also, you know, to commiserate with my experiences, because I'm really open about my journey with shame and vulnerability, and it's really wonderful. You know, I think social media has a lot of problems, obviously. Like, did you watch the movie The Social Network?
No, it's on my to watch list.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot
of problems.
It's just obvious, yeah.
There's a lot of problems, but, you know, I also think it can be a really amazing tool for connection if used, you know, in moderation. And it is that for me. So I'm really happy you found me on there.
Yeah, it's just fun when you come across someone, you're like, ooh, I resonate with her. Let's watch some more of the things that she has going on.
I love it. I'm honored.
Thank you for putting your truth out there and sharing it with the world.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Like, who is Janel, and tell us a little bit about your history.
Sure. Well, I am from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I grew up going to Catholic school, as you said in the intro, for 14 years and grew up in an Irish Catholic and Italian Catholic family. And so, a lot of my early opinion of myself was really dictated by this religion that I grew up with. And I've always been I've always been a really curious person. I've always been a really sexually curious person too. I mean, within reason. When I became a preteen is when I started feeling it, which I think is what's normal for most people. I was like, oh man, I'm so curious. I'm so curious about sex and relationships and about intimacy and and I definitely just felt like I was attracted to lots of different kinds of people, not just boys necessarily. Into high school, I was really drawn to wanting to connect with more than one person. And I didn't really understand like quote unquote conventional boundaries of like, okay, once you start dating someone, you shouldn't even look at anybody else. Right. And so basically I just thought I was a bad person. I just thought I had no values. And I was really in a lot of pain for a lot of my adolescence. So I was like a very, I was very outgoing and gregarious and flirty, and I did theater, and I had a great childhood, but I was also really troubled because I just like didn't really feel like I fit into the image of like who a woman or a girl is supposed to be. Because like all the women I grew up with were moms and were stay-at-home moms, which is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not something I particularly can see myself doing. And I didn't see other examples of how I could be. And I, mostly saw straight people and monogamous people. In fact, I didn't even realize there was any other way you could be. So I had a hard time. And then fast forward to when I graduated from college, I decided to go sing on cruise ships, which was really fun and wild. And I met so many cool people from all over the world who thought differently than anyone I'd ever met, before that. And I met people who introduced me to the idea of ethical non-monogamy, which is basically the notion that you can lovingly connect with more than one person, as long as you're honest about it. And that's not cheating because you're being honest and everyone is consenting to it. And I immediately was like, oh my God, I think I'm that. And it really was a light bulb for me. And so yeah, for the past 10 years, I've been deepening in my understanding of this and experimenting with having loving relationships with more than one person. And so that whole journey was just so hard because there's just not a lot of examples of like, how do you create a relationship from scratch that isn't just based on the conventional rules of like, date someone until you're quote unquote serious about them and then don't ever look at anyone else ever again and get married and have kids. And so, creating my own roadmap was really stressful, and I had a hard time in my 20s experimenting with polyamory, which means like being in love with more than one person at once. And basically it just got so hard that I decided I needed to just go and shave my head and hike across America. So then my journey took a wild turn, and I was like, I read that book Wild, and it totally inspired me,
Such a good one.
Oh, it's so good. I was like, I want to do that. So in the long distance hiker community, they all roll their eyes at that book because it's gotten so many people hooked on through hiking or long distance hiking, but whatever, I'm a stereotype. I'm one of the people. So I was like, I shaved my head. I'm like, I'm ready for a new Janel. And I hiked from Georgia to Maine on the Appalachian Trail. And then I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, which is, what she hikes in the book Wild. And over the course of that journey, I really came home to myself, and I really let go of a lot of shame about my sexuality, my relationship orientation, which means, how I orient to relationships is non-monogamous as opposed to monogamous. And I was like, you know what? I have gone through so much struggle, and I've learned so much about relationships. I want to help other people with that. And so in 2018, I started a coaching practice around sexual and relationship empowerment. And I have been absolutely loving it. And that's my story.
And that's where we are.
That's where we are now.
That's a fun story. I mean, just think about all that time you spent hiking around the country. You would really get in touch with yourself and what it is you truly desire out of life.
Totally. Oh, yeah. And it's a huge privilege I got to do that. I mean, something else I'd be remiss to leave out, that I'm white and, raised in, middle class, arguably upper middle class suburbia. And I think it's really important to name that privilege has played a role in my ability to like lead this life, so I don't want to take extra credit for like, I'm just such a wild adventurer. I mean, that is true. And also I'm really, really lucky that I didn't have, I didn't have young kids I needed to take care of. I didn't have a mortgage I needed to take care of. I didn't have, my student loans were already paid off. And so I think it's really important to me to acknowledge that, I
love that you do. It's part of a gratitude process that I believe is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
So through your adventures, your hiking and your discovering of yourself and every experience you had up until that point, what was the point that you were like, was there, I know you said this is what you wanted to do, but was there like the specific point that you were desiring to be a sexual and relationship empowerment coach? Because I'll be honest, like I really thought that would be the best job ever for the longest time. Yes, I just didn't want to go to school because I don't have the patience for that. And back when that was a thing for me, you needed to have that, not a certificate or anything else. You had to have education to go with it. But I just thought, how fun and fulfilling would this be to connect people together, right? Because everyone's looking for someone or something. Yeah. And that would be so amazing to have a little piece of that.
I love that you even knew that was a thing, because honestly, I had no idea it existed until right before I started my long distance hiking adventure. I was actually working in communications, and that helped me a lot with my current job, because a lot of my job is marketing and putting myself out there, right? So I was working in communications for this nonprofit, and a guy I had hired to help me with making the website. We became friends while we were making this website for this nonprofit. And he went to school with one of the founders of the Somatica method, which is the method I ultimately got trained in, a sex and relationship coaching methodology. And so him and I were buddies, and I started kind of just talking to him about how interested I was in relationships and in sexuality, and how I had been really actively exploring polyamory and ethical non-monogamy. And he was like, you should get on the email list of this woman I went to high school with. Her and this other woman have started this institute around sex and relationship coaching. So he forwarded me their email, and I was like, what? This is a thing. This is amazing. And so I kind of just orbited them for a couple of years and went to some of their free introductory events, and definitely just had a like, yes, this is it kind of experience interacting with them and learning about the work. And, but I was resistant to it for a couple of years, because I thought, well, if I'm not a completely perfect person and I'm struggling in my relationships, I'm not going to be a good coach. And then from going on this journey of just like really coming home to myself and really seeing myself at my worst and in my vulnerability and getting through it and learning how to overcome obstacles and just being an imperfect person and admitting that to myself, I was like, no, actually, you can be a really powerful coach or leader or professional who is imperfect. And in fact, that's important because thinking that you're perfect is delusional, and no one is.
Right. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I honestly didn't know it was a thing. I just knew I wanted it to be a thing. So to answer that comment you made, but respond to it. I think it's really neat. Like, you went for it, and now I want to hear about your experiences and what it is that you teach. And I mean, I have so many questions. So I'm so excited. We have like another hour and a half to just really wander and get to know all about you and what you are into.
Well, gosh, things have changed so much for me since quarantine, since March.
Oh, I bet.
So for the first, year and a half of being a coach, I was mostly working with people in person. And I was getting a lot of referrals through the Somatica Institute network. I'm still on their website as a coach. But yeah, I was working with a lot of people in person, mostly men in tech, because I live in the San Francisco Bay Area still. So I was working with a lot of men to help them figure out, how do I date? How do I tell women what I desire without being creepy? How do I respect women's boundaries? Like, teach me about consent. I mean, I worked with a lot of amazing men, and I learned so much about how all the stereotypes about men are just so wrong. Like, so many men would come to me and say, Janelle, I think that something's wrong with me. And I'd be like, okay. And they'd be like, I don't want to have sex on the first date. And I'd be like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And they'd be like, really? Because there's so much internalized messaging around gender for people raised men and for people raised women, right? But they're really different. And for people who are raised men in this culture, they think I should want sex all the time, with everyone. And like, I'm that's what real virility is. That's what being a man is. And so many men would be like, I kind of just want to like get to know women first. Like, is that okay? And I'd be like, yeah, it's okay. So I'm like cheerleading people out of unlearning these like very damaging myths. Very damaging.
Too. Our experiences in our life make us think the most wild things. Like, who would think that was not okay? And we're just, some of us are just conditioned to believe that to be true.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people, like, you ask most people, they'll just name that as like a fact. Like, oh yeah, men are hornier than women. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, stereotypically, that would definitely be a thing.
It's definitely a thing, but like, you can look at all the new research around human sexuality that's showing that people across the gender spectrum are actually much more similar to each other than we had originally thought. And in fact, there's just people who want lots of different things, who are both men or women or everything in between, right? And so, yeah, there's really no one truth around sex and relationships. It's really about like, how do you create what really works for you and be honest and upfront and not have a bunch of shame about that, so you can meet other people who want that too, And I'd say to these guys, of course there's women who want one night stands, and they're not the right women for you. There are guys who want one night stands, and those women and those men will get together, if they're straight. And if you want to be with a woman who doesn't want to have sex on the first date, you will find her, and she'll be really stoked, to find you. So yeah, it's just really being like, knowing that no matter what it is that you want, there's someone else out there who wants it too, and to be patient and to communicate that and be upfront about it. So that was really powerful. But then when quarantine happened, I really switched over into, okay, how do I create a whole online business? And so I decided I really wanted to focus on couples, because if I'm going to be working with people over Zoom, it's so fun to work with couples because they're together in person and I'm just guiding them through Zoom. So I was definitely finding that to be more fun. I do work with individuals too, but definitely working with couples has been so wonderful. And now my focus is really on helping couples overcome shame about having different desires, like not just libido mismatch, but also like desires for kink or for what kind of sex they have or what kind of relationships they have. So I work with a lot of couples who are exploring open relationships, and one person is more hesitant than the other person, or, there's lots of issues that can come up in exploring open relationships. So I help people a lot with that. And I recently worked with a couple who one of the partners really wanted to explore cuckolding, which is watching your wife with another man. And there's a lot of cultural shame because of toxic masculinity around that. And so but if two people are consenting to that, there's nothing wrong with that. So I helped them, negotiate some agreements and feel through their feelings about that. So I really love helping people who, are particularly feeling a lot of shame and confusion around like a mismatch of some kinds, or really wanting to create their own customized relationship rules, around, if they want something a little bit more unconventional. So that's my current passion.
What a fun passion.
Yeah, I think so. I feel so blessed.
I was going to say, I would find it before. I mean, we already made this clear. I think it would be amazing. But with the way that you're able to work with partners through Zoom, I would imagine that would be a lot different because they're in their own space and they're probably a lot more comfortable there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not like physically in the room, although you're there. It probably just creates a completely different energy so that they're more open and vulnerable, I would imagine.
That definitely can be true. Yeah. I mean, I think some people like to go to their therapist's office in person to create like a neutral zone, so I think it can really just depend on the couple and what they're working with. And, I'm not a licensed couples therapist. I'm a certified somatica sex and relationship coach. So I'm not working with people who have severe mental health issues or anything like that. So, the couples I'm working with all tend to be couples who really want to stay together and be together. They're not going through like divorce proceedings or anything like that. So yeah, I think like being in the comfort of their home, in their space together does really fit the work, which is great. Yeah.
Going back to you saying that men are typically or statistically known to have a higher sex drive, which
that's the stereotype.
Which you also commented that's not necessarily true. The women could. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's just more known now because women aren't as repressed per se than they used to be? Like they feel like they can open up more and be more open about what their desires are?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot going on there. I think there's a lot of women with high libidos, and there's a lot of women who don't have high libidos, and everything in between, and so, biologically there are impacts for libido for both, men and women, or, all bodied people, right? There's certain, testosterone, estrogen, certain things that will impact your libido. But culturally, there's huge influence as well. Like for both men and women, like, did you have any kind of harassment? Especially for women, there's a lot of sexual assault and trauma from the past that can definitely affect your libido and your interest in sex, of course, but there's also centuries of slut shaming for women, right? Where women feel like, okay, I'm not allowed to own my sexuality. Women are supposed to be sexy, but not sexual traditionally, right? And so that really affects our ability to tap into our desire and embrace our desire and embrace ourselves as sexual beings. So I definitely think there's much more understanding of the fact that women are sexual beings, and there's a lot less stigma around women being sexual, although still obviously that exists. Like, I don't know if you saw my TikTok that someone hacked into my email account and changed my email signature to slut.
No, I didn't, but how thoughtful.
How thoughtful, right? Like, wow, the shame is still real for like a woman who's educating about sex on the internet and sexually empowered. Someone felt threatened enough to go in and change my signature. So yeah, I mean, obviously the hate.
Crazy.
I know. So the hate and the shame is still there, obviously, but I think, yeah, we're definitely the most sexually empowered we've been in Western civilization, at least, I would say. So that's good.
Yeah, it is good. Have you ever read, I'm sure you have, The Ethical Slut?
Absolutely. That's the non-monogamous Bible.
Book.
Yeah.
Such a good book. Mm-hmm. Of course you have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But totally. I think it's neat, though, that women are, and men too, the ones who have been conditioned not to share their desires, but when I feel like it's being more discussed, and that's why part of the reason I'm so happy that you're here, because creating the conversation that isn't surrounded by guilt or shame is just such a beautiful experience, even with your friends, just to be able to be authentically 100% yourself in whatever it is that you desire, as long as you're not hurting anyone badly.
Well, some people might want to be
That's
hurt,
why I said badly.
Yeah,
but
and
that's where the communication comes in, right?
Right. I want to dispel like a myth around kink, if that's okay, which is just like, there are some people who really choose psychological or, even physical impact play. And a lot of people in our culture think that there's something like deviant or dysfunctional about that. And actually, what sexologists have found is that those are amazing ways for certain people to heal and to be present and to get into their bodies, to get out of their heads. And we really need to stop judging people for the different ways that they approach sexuality. And kink, as I said, it can be a way for people to heal and make sense of things psychologically. So for instance, people have found that the rate of mask pornography has increased so much since the beginning of quarantine. It existed before that, amazingly, but so many more people are looking at mask porn. Why? Because it helps us make sense of a confusing and difficult situation, and it helps us reclaim psychological agency over it to turn something into a sexual desire. So like it's actually the mind's way of transferring something that's hard or a struggle into something empowering, which is like pretty mind-blowing.
I could see that, but absolutely amazing. I love learning these little fun facts. It's fun. We're going to take a quick break, you guys. When we get back, we're going to hear more about Janel and what she does to assist other people in connecting to themselves and others. So we'll be here in just a few moments. Stay close.
A birthday without her mom, an anniversary without her husband, her wedding day without her dad. These are the days when military families feel it most of all. The loss of their soldier, their sailor, their airman, their Marine, their Coast Guardsman. Families never forget their loved ones lost to war or illness or suicide. Families never forget, and neither do we. We are TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. We provide resources, support, and comfort to heal the hearts and meet the needs of grieving military families, all at no cost to them. Your generosity can make an enormous difference in the lives of the families of our fallen military heroes. Our military families need to know they are not alone and they are not forgotten. Show them your support at TAPS.org.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. After just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 945-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. That's 945-882-7221. Or go to the website angioprim.com.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Now you have the inside contact for alternative talk radio. The Planet. KGRARadio.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soul Wandering. We're here on KGRA Radio, and I am AJ Rasmussen, your host. Tonight, we're hanging out with our guest, Janel Vitale, who is a sex, relationship, and empowerment coach. She has the fun job.
Yeah.
She's the one that signed up for this amazingness. So we're hearing all about her and her adventures and her expertise. And I'm really thinking some of us are going to walk away with some really great information.
Yeah, thanks. I hope so. I love helping people. You know, a lot of helping people really heals my younger self or my inner child or however you want to call it, because sometimes when I'm coaching people or creating content around sex and relationships, I'm like, man, I wish I had this when I was 13 or 16.
Right?
Or 21.
But it also, you change and evolve too, which is part of the fun.
Yeah, that's true. You never really know what's going to happen. And especially, you know, I work a lot with people who are in open relationships. And something that I always tell my clients is, you know, people's desires and needs and boundaries shift over time, and you just got to be open to that and keep talking about it, right? It's not okay to shift a boundary without talking to your partner about it, but you just have to be open to knowing that, yeah, we change, our relationships change. And even if you're in a monogamous relationship, like Esther Perel, the famous relationship therapist, says, you know, we're in like 3 major relationships in our lifetime on average. And for some of us, that's with the same person, because we just change so much that our relationship changes with us, you know? And so if you're with someone for 30 years, you're not the same 2 people you were, which is really cool.
It is really cool. So you're still getting those experiences and having those conversations, but still being able to be in the comfort and safety of that partnership is really amazing too.
Totally. Yeah, it is great.
So I'm curious, back in the day when you started feeling this, you were quite young. And I imagine, I mean, we all get curious when we're young, and we have a lot of fun in the high school and college days or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Some of us settle down right after, and some of us want to go even deeper than that. What was it like for you? When did you start, you know, asking more questions or digging deeper into what it was that you desired? And how did you go about that journey and learning more, in case someone else was experiencing those same things?
Yeah. Well, you know, earlier you mentioned the book, The Ethical Slut. That's a really great book for people who are kind of like, how do I create my own relationship rules that aren't just kind of the standard narrative of how sex and relationships are supposed to be? So I read that book in my 20s, and for a while I thought, I can be my own primary partner, instead of thinking I'm single, and so that means I'm less than. That's kind of that's a little bit of the cultural story we have going on, that if you're single, you need to find a partner. But like, not everyone needs to be in a partnership at all times, or even ever. That's just not, it's not right for everyone. And so I went through a period of experimenting with calling myself solo poly, which means solo polyamorous, or like I'm my own partner.
Oh, you are a unicorn.
Yeah, basically. And I really liked that. It felt very empowering, instead of coming from a place of need and lack of like, I'm less than because I don't have a partner. It was like, I am my own partner. How do I take care of myself and invest in myself? And the framing was just really helpful in my 20s, when I was really wanting to, when I was really needing to love myself more. and really needing to understand who I was. So it was really good motivation to take care of myself, to think like, oh, I am my own partner, and I'm responsible for myself. No one else is going to emotionally caretake me or babysit me. So that was really powerful. And then I experimented with having two primary partners. I met two men and wanted to be with them both, and that was very, very difficult because neither of them like particularly wanted to be in polyamorous relationship. They both just wanted to be with me, and so that was a lot of drama. That wasn't ideal. But then I met a man at Burning Man who I'm currently with, who's my amazing partner, Patrick. You've probably seen some of my TikToks. Yeah, I know. Burning Man's such a stereotype of like, oh, I met my like cool, kinky, non-monogamous lover at Burning Man, but I did. And yeah, he's just so amazing and so emotionally intelligent. And we have such the perfect relationship structure for us right now, which is we're each other's primary partners, and we also connect with other people, mostly in like a pretty, sweet, casual, but still meaningful, like friendship, lovership kind of way. But both of us are open to having deeper, loving connections with other people. It just hasn't happened. And, we're really each other's home base and rock. And we plan on that being the case for the foreseeable future, for as long as it makes sense. And that's really, really wonderful. I think something that's important to think about with sex and relationships is, you and your partner get to define what commitment and loyalty mean to you. And the standard narrative is commitment means you only have sex with one person for the rest of your life, and loyalty too. But you and your partner can define that however you want. And so like for me in our relationship, we define commitment as being honest with each other, no matter what, and supporting each other's growth and being there for each other. And even if that means our relationship needs to change or we move in different directions, like we're going to try to be moving in the same direction. But if it comes to the point where one of us wants to go join the circus or something, the other person is going to be sad and be like, well, I want you to live your best life and I'm going to let you go, And so like, that's for us what commitment and loyalty mean to us. And, people can define it however they want. So I really want to encourage everybody listening to really think about that. Like, what is commitment? What is loyalty to you? How do you define it? How do you define it with the person or people you're with?
Yeah, definitely. And people feel like, I kind of think they get a little doomy feeling. Like no one is going to understand what it is I desire, and I'm not going to be with anyone because they just won't accept me and what it is that I need for myself.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, it can be really challenging, I would imagine. But what were you going to say?
Well, just like so many people have been rejected, especially men, and like rejection sucks and it's so painful and it leaves that scar, leaves that bad taste in your mouth. And I get it. I totally get it. And I think, a book I loved is called Models by Mark Manson. And it's actually like a dating book for men, but I think it's really useful for everyone. He talks a lot of, he's really great. And he talks a lot about, really investing in yourself and changing your relationship with yourself so that you really believe that you are worth loving. And so when people reject you, you're like, okay, great. Rejection is protection. Like, I don't need that. That's not the right person for me. And he actually advises you polarize people as quickly as possible to find the right people for you. Meaning, don't just try to like please or be likable to the people that you're dating, especially, he's giving advice to men mostly, but like, don't just try to get someone to like you. You actually want them to get to know you and your truth and be upfront about who you are and what you want as quickly as possible. Absolutely. And you are more likely to get rejected when you do that, which is good, because then you will not get too attached and you'll meet the right people for you. And so I think that's a really powerful framing, is like, you got to embrace what you want and your desires, even though that's going to mean more people are going to opt out quicker. But that's a good thing. You're not going to get attached to the wrong people, and you're going to meet people who want what you want.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I definitely agree with that. And I
Yeah.
think the more clear you can get, the better. Like
Yeah.
already know in advance before you even start, dating around or bringing in that energy into your space of desiring a partner. Be
Yeah.
very specific.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really big on manifestation, so that just goes right in line with that.
Mm-hmm. Totally. No, I think that manifestation can be really powerful. I think having a mindset of abundance instead of scarcity is what I'm all about personally. And I think no matter if you're in a open relationship or a monogamous relationship, I think having an abundance mindset can be really powerful. And mostly our culture looks at sex and relationships from a scarcity mindset of,
Yeah.
there's only a few people out there for me in the entire world, like what, or like there's even only one soulmate for me, and there's only so much love to go around. And I just really think we can unlearn those and we can rethink those stories, because there's infinite love, and there's only a finite amount of time that you
Right.
have to
Right.
invest in other people, but there's really like infinite love. And if you have multiple kids, you love them all, and you're not like, oh, I
There's
can't love
enough
this
to go
kid.
around.
Yeah, I can't love this kid because I already love this kid. It's like, what? So yeah, I think how do you have an abundance mindset in sexuality and relationships, and believe that there are lots of right people for you out there, and there's lots of people out there who want what you want if you are just upfront about what you want.
Yeah, yeah, I really agree with that. So important. I know in my life, and when the more clear I've been through the whole dating thing, that I was able to, narrow it down to someone who is open to ideas or suggestions that I may have. And it feels so good to have
Mhm.
that type of person in your corner that isn't going to judge you or critique you when you do want something that's kind of out of the norm in
Yeah.
any aspect. But when
Mhm.
it comes to rejection, I mean, we all go through it. There is a question in the chat room. Why is the man expected to make the first move in rejection? Which I thought would be a really good question when you brought up
Yeah.
rejection in general, but how do we overcome rejection and
Yeah.
get more of a tough skin, because we are sharing those type of things.
It's so hard that, yeah, men are the ones who are expected to make the first move. And I think that comes from probably a history of of patriarchy, of like women not really being invited to be the initiators or the ones initiating sex, or I think like historically that has been the case. And so unfortunately that's still the expectation that we've inherited. And that's why I really like that dating app Bumble, which is where
Yeah.
like the women have to reach out first. And that's such an interesting concept. And yeah, I think it's really tough. That's still the reality, and that like men's experiences on dating apps is basically like reaching out to a bunch of people and hearing nothing, and women's experiences is just getting like inundated with messages from
Yes.
guys. I mean, we're talking about straight people here, and that's so crappy. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't like have an easy answer for like how to fix that. I really appreciate that Bumble is like actively trying to like throw a wrench in that stereotype and like make light of it. But yeah, it is really really painful. And I think if you are a man who wants to get a deeper sense of how to handle rejection from another man, I really recommend that book Models by Mark Manson. I think it's super helpful.
I love recommendations. I'm taking note.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another question in the chat room
Mhm.
is, do we have to feel guilty if we fail at a relationship?
Of course, my answer is absolutely not. And also like I love rethinking what is failure. What is failure in a relationship? Is failure not being with one person for the entirety of your life? Maybe if that's how you want to define it, but like I think that's a pretty harsh way to define failure. I think failure could be looking I really think failure is not being willing to look at your impact on other people. Failure is, creating harm.
Yes.
And I think that, if you make a mistake in a relationship, where you like break someone's trust or you say something mean. Like, yeah, that's not ideal. And, you know, that's you shouldn't do that. And we all do that. We are all going to make mistakes in relationships. And the most important thing is, can you own it? Can you see that you had an impact on others? Can you acknowledge what you did and apologize and grow and learn from it? If so, that is not a failure. That is growth.
Yeah.
That's, you know, relationship university, you know, and if your relationship it doesn't last as long as you thought it would, that's also okay. Like, you did the best you could with the tools you got, and maybe your relationship was put in your life for this amount of time just for you to learn something, and now it's time for you to learn something else. Like, I really am into challenging notions about like what things mean in relationships. So like, what is failure? What is failure really in relationship?
Yeah, I love that. That's in any aspect of life in general, but it's so good to put that spin on relationships because really we learn so much in every relationship.
Totally.
I mean, you don't walk away from a relationship not learning anything, I would hope.
Yeah. There's that great quotation that's like, a relationship is like a car. It picks you up where you are and it takes you to where you need to go.
Oh, I've never heard that. I like that.
Yeah. And I think it just means, you know, even if you're only with someone for like a month or a week or 20 years, you know, like that relationship taught you something. There's something there, some reflection of yourself that you got to see through this other person's eyes for just the amount of time that they were in your orbit. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And I think those shorter relationships, it's like a School of Hard Knocks or like a really quick crash course because you learn so much in that short amount of time. Yep. Whereas when you're in a long-term relationship, I feel like some of the growth comes a little bit slower because, you know, you'll have a big growth experience and then you're coasting for a while.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really powerful.
So you have a plethora of TikTok videos and you talk about all types of things, not just sex. You talk about relationships in general, in desires in general. You talk about different types of relationships like the polyamory and the non-monogamous, all kinds of stuff. So your scope is way to the right and way to the left. So you really have something for everyone.
I try, you know, it's really important for me to create content that really is accepting of all sexual orientations, all relationship orientations. And by the way, you can find me at Love with Janel on all the socials, and that's my website. And Janel is spelled Jane with an L, Love with Janel. And yeah, it's really important to me that all my content is really just like shame-free and judgment-free for people who are gay, who are straight, who are trans, who are asexual, who are non-monogamous, who are monogamous, kinky, vanilla. Like, it's really, for me, I just want to help people find what they really want in sex and relationships. But the people who tend to reach out to me are people who want unconventional things, because I do talk so much about my own journey as like someone who wants unconventional things in sex and relationships. And, you know, I talk so much about shame, and there's so much shame around all sex and relationship stuff, but especially for people who want unconventional stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
there really is. Thank you for sharing your site. It is also getting shared in the chat room. If you guys want to join in on the chat room, you could head on over to the brand new website, KGRADB, as in digitalbroadcasting.com. Click on the chat room. Come and hang out with all the chat people, the wanderers during these 2 hours, as I call them. And if you have questions, you can share them there. But in the meantime, how would someone approach their partner in a productive and safe way if they did want to explore an open relationship?
Totally. I have a whole guide on like a whole structure or script on how to talk about a desire in general, especially one that you're really nervous to talk to your partner about. So the first part of the script is asking them, hey, do you have the space to have a talk with me right now? Just to give them the permission to be like, I'm really exhausted. Like, can we talk tomorrow? So opening with, do you have the emotional availability to have a conversation? And then it's always really wonderful and disarming for both of you to open with vulnerability of how you're emotionally feeling going into this conversation, and then naming your intention. So, for instance, that would look like, I'm really nervous to talk to you about this because I really don't want you to think that I'm unhappy with our relationship. My intention with sharing this with you is just to get closer to you. So again, opening with, do you have the availability for this? And then naming your emotional experience and being vulnerable, and then stating what your intention is and is not, right? Like I said, I don't want you to think, I'm angry with you, but I just want to share this with you to feel more connected to you, right? Everything you share that's difficult is ultimately to feel more connected to your partner, right? Because that's what intimacy is. It's into me, see the truth that is here and let's love each other through it, right? So that's the intro to sharing any kind of difficult desire. And then I would say, yeah, so I'm thinking about, I've been learning more about ethical non-monogamy and open relationships, and I've been really curious about it. And I've been thinking it could be something interesting for us to explore. And I've been reading that it can actually really help your relationship get even closer because there's so much communication tools that you learn through doing it together, and it could be really fun and enlivening. And I'm wondering if you're interested in having this conversation with me. So you don't say, I want to be in an open relationship, right? You say,
yeah,
do
that's
you want
gray
to?
stuff.
Yeah, right. You're like, do you want to talk? Can we talk about this? Are you open to exploring this with me?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're like, absolutely not, that's a hell no for me, then you have to graciously be like, okay, thanks for saying that, And if for you're like, okay, well, that sucks, but it's not that big of a deal, then you have to sit with your disappointment and move on. But if you're like, okay, wait, I actually really think I need to pursue this, then, I would say like, okay, I'm scared because I'm noticing this is feeling like very relevant for me. And I think I need to at least like read a book about it to understand it more. Is it okay with you if I just learn more about it, even if you don't want to? Mm-hmm. And if they still say that's a hell no, you really have to decide, like, can I stay in this relationship ethically and stay true to myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an important question to ask yourself if your partner isn't on board for your new idea.
Yeah, right. And this doesn't have to be about non-monogamy. You could be like, I really want to try doing like a dom sub role play with you or something. Like, I want to try something kinky. I want to try whatever. And you might be like nervous to tell them, like, I'm really nervous to talk to you about this because I don't want you to think I think our sex is bad, but I've just been feeling like a growing interest in trying this sexual thing. I'm curious if you are open to like talking about it with me, or just like learning more about it, or maybe we could like talk about the fantasy instead of doing it and just see what that brings up. And I think it's really, about being curious and about their experience and asking them if they'll just have the conversation with you instead of being like, we need to do this now. Just like, yeah, approach it like we versus me.
Yes. And yeah. I mean, that is what a partnership is.
Yeah,
it isn't just about yourself.
Yeah.
If it is and you're in the wrong relationship, just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We are trained or conditioned to believe that those conversations shouldn't be happening, and that they're not proper, or they're not right, or they're bad, or whatever other negative statement we can make about them. And so learning to share initially is always going to be a little frightening, give you some anxiety, but I would highly encourage anybody to really be open in the ways that you are explaining to them in sharing with their partner, because it sounds like in sharing that way, it could be forward moving. It could be very productive and not so scary to the person receiving the information about your desires, because it could be for them.
I know. A big reason it's so scary is because there's this myth in our culture that if you don't do everything your partner desires, then you're incompatible and your relationship is doomed. It's a big myth. In fact, I made a TikTok about that went super viral, like 1 million views or something like that, because like that's a deep thing people are afraid of. And I think what's really important is you do not have to do everything your partner desires. In fact, just them even talking about it can just diffuse the power of the desire over them. Just them feeling seen and validated is really a lot of what people need. And so I will often have my clients who have a desire mismatch of some kind, I'll have them both just share a desire to the other person, and the other person, I say, just validate them. Just say, thanks for telling me that. And then that's it. And then we'll talk about how that felt and like what else came up. But like so many people just need to feel seen and validated in their desires instead of shamed. And like that helps to move that desire through you instead of letting it fester. And so I think the desire is like a gaseous substance. I say this a lot, where like if you try to bottle it up, it will explode. Okay. But if you let it just be there hanging in the air, it dissipates. And so I think it's really important for people to talk about desires with their partners without it being like, so now we need to do this. It's just like, here's a fantasy I had. Here's a desire I'm feeling. And for your partner to be like, that's great, honey. And it doesn't mean like, okay, we need to do this now.
Yeah. I mean, usually it doesn't anyway. That's the thing. It's just starting the conversation and putting it out on the table as a possibility. Right. Like getting it out and airing it out into your space, the energy of it, I think just does wonders.
It really does. I've seen it really transform and like create so much relief and a feeling of intimacy and acceptance in partners, just sharing this stuff. And, a lot of our fantasies should not and do not need to be enacted in real life. And just the fact of like sharing them and admitting that they're there and having, self-compassion around them can be really powerful. Like, for instance, like I am someone who hates going to the doctor and I hate having my blood drawn. And so sometimes I have these medical fantasies, which is my mind's way of reclaiming psychological agency over going to the doctor, I think, because, I create some, fantasy desire story around it, and then it becomes less menacing. It becomes less this horrible experience. And I don't want that to be enacted in real life, my medical fantasy, but just talking about it is really, it makes it just like, it just doesn't feel weird. Like, why do we need to keep pathologizing our desires? Like, sometimes our desires are linked to our fears, and that's okay. Like, that doesn't mean you're broken or you're a bad person or you even need to act on it. It's just like, oh, how interesting. Like, there's my brain doing something cool. And then your partner's like, oh, that's cool. Interesting. Thanks for telling me. And like, that's just really powerful. It's really intimate.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I love that you're sharing all of this. It's so good. And I hope everyone is taking note, because it's just good information to have. You just never know. I love that you keep giggling. You're kind of throwing me off guard. I'm like, what am I saying right now?
Well, you gotta, sex is fun and awkward, and you gotta just giggle about it.
Really.
Embrace the awkward.
Yeah, and if you can do that, everything isn't so serious, and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Let's take our top of the hour break, and then the next hour will be completely commercial free. So I hope you guys stay close. There's more to come. We'll be right back.
Please listen. Now is not the time to fear. When your immune system is strong, shields up. You have very little worries. If your immune system is compromised, you're susceptible to all viruses. I say shields up and no fear. Try Heart Love from GetTheTea.com. Heart Love has a special ingredient called allicin. It comes from the healing part of the garlic plant. No garlic breath. No garlic leaking out your pores, just pure immune-building ingredients that gets your shields up. Heart Love is a unique blend of herbs that loves to build you up. Google garlic and know the benefits. One Heart Love pill is equal to 20 cloves of garlic. 20 cloves. Shields up. You've heard of our Life Change Cleansing Tea at getthetea.com. Now try Heart Love. And by the way, take your blood pressure and watch weekly what happens. So here's how to purchase. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and build your shields. That's getthetea.com. Mention Ray in the coupon code and hit apply and receive free shipping.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
You are listening to Soul Wanderings on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Salt Lake City, Utah, Hudson Valley, New York. If you haven't already heard the news, KGRA has had a facelift. Well, more than that, literally an entire makeover. I invite you to visit our new website, KGRADB, as in digital broadcasting.com. That's KGRADB.com. This new and beautiful site is filled with many opportunities for you to explore and to learn exclusive content and the KGRA classics. I encourage you to have a visit and see for yourself. Visit KGRADB.com and keep visiting often. They're going to be adding more and more and more. It's just really cool. It's a beautiful site. And congrats to the whole KGRA team that worked on it and got it out on December 1st, yesterday. It looks great, guys. Tonight we are hanging out with Janel Vitale. She holds a BA in communication from the University of Southern California and a certificate in sex and relationship coaching from the Somatic Institute. She's based in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is really fun. And you guys can reach her through TikTok or YouTube, Instagram, and even her website, All Love with Janel. It's great that you got them all the same.
I know.
It doesn't happen very often anymore.
I know. Well, luckily the name Janel is kind of out, it's kind of unique, so that helped.
So like I said earlier, I found this goddess on TikTok in one of my midnight strolls of non-sleeping. So I'm glad I came across you.
Me too. That's so great.
It's
TikTok is
awesome.
such a great medium for like finding new interesting people.
It is a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I'm following people I probably wouldn't have like followed on Instagram just because I see
Yeah.
more of their personalities and
Totally.
I love the inspirational ones like where you don't even see the people but they have beautiful scenery with like Alan Watts talking in the background or something.
Oh yeah, totally.
I'm just like, thank you for that moment of peace. So
Oh, that sounds sweet. Yeah, I'm really appreciating that Instagram is has come online with Reels, and I can use my TikTok video content over there on Reels, and so many more people are finding me on Instagram, which is awesome because Reels has a different algorithm, I guess. So
yeah,
definitely have a whole new community of followers there on Instagram because of the Reels. So that's exciting.
yeah. Well, you are killing it on the social media realm. I don't spend a lot of time there, so everyone's like, your numbers are low, and I'm like, I know, but I know I have a lot of listeners and I have a lot of customers in my shop, and I know that they are watching and looking at the numbers on social aren't so big to me, but I love it. I get the point. I get why they're there, and I just think, wow, I see yours, and I'm like, wow. Like you're reaching a large audience, and that just means more people are opening up and having the opportunity to learn things from you, and that's just fantastic. And that's one of the reasons I love social media so much.
Yeah, I think social media isn't necessary for everybody's businesses, and in fact, it can be a distraction for some people from serving their audience and enacting their purpose in the world. So it's definitely not for everyone. And I think it's really important to normalize taking breaks with it too. Like I think I'm about to take a little social media break. I haven't really felt like posting for the past few days. And so I'm like, I think I need a break. And I think that's also really important. And we have such like a go, go, go culture that it's like, sometimes we got to normalize rest in this culture.
Definitely. And there's a serious burnout that happens.
Yeah.
So I received a couple of questions before the break and during the break. I'm just going to ask them, even though we're not really on a topic right now. But
yeah, perfect.
One of them is, why do some women wear clothes exposing their chests and then take exception if someone looks? It's kind of a random question.
Yeah, I mean, I think really what people. I mean, my impression is like women take offense to being objectified as like only someone who's someone to be looked at versus like someone who's worthy of respect and has a brain who can have conversations, and I think that's really what women are
sexy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what women object to is just like being treated like you're just this sexy person. And so, what's really important is like looking sexy and wanting to be sexy does not also mean that you don't want to use your brain and have a conversation and be treated with respect. And so I think like traditionally in our culture, women who wanted to look sexy were degraded. They were seen as sluts or prostitutes or whatever. And I think in this new age of sexual empowerment, it's okay to want to be sexy as long as, you are also being treated with respect. And so I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that question is really conveying.
Yeah. Well, and also I feel like women, I guess I'm only speaking for myself, but I dress certain ways for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not to get attention and it's not to, for whatever other reason other than it just makes me feel good. And if I want to dress sexy, I'm going to dress sexy because maybe sometimes I'm feeling myself.
I think that's true for a lot of women, and I think there's other women like when I dress up sexy, like I like knowing that people are looking at me and thinking I look sexy. I mean that's fun for me. And I think there's other women who have the experience of just wanting to get dressed up and look sexy for themselves or for other women, but like not for the male gaze. And so, I think you don't really know what a woman's experience is of like why she decided to look sexy, but you definitely owe it to her to be respectful and to look her in the eye and talk to her like she's a person worthy of respect. And I think that's not too much to ask for.
Very good answer.
Yeah.
Next question. What portion of women have the level of self-assurance to not hear this as a sign of their own inadequacy?
To hear
all of
what?
the information. I'm assuming all of the information that you're sharing.
I think that feeling inadequate is something that lots of people experience, not just women. I mean, there's so many different ways that our culture has made both women and men to feel inadequate. Like women, it's often about age and body and weight. And for men, it's usually about like power and money and status. And these are the things that our society has conditioned us to believe are important. And unfortunately, they are still important because of all the social conditioning around it. And so I think, part of unlearning insecurity is like really doing some deep excavation of your insecurities and fears and being like, is this mine? Is this from a messed up culture that expects me to be rich and powerful or to be like young and pretty for the rest of my life? And how can I sit with that grief and that fear and journal about it and love myself through it and acknowledge that those stories are not mine and I don't have to hold them anymore. They're from a messed up culture. And doing a lot of sitting with your discomfort is really where a lot of the growth can come from, of getting out of the stronghold of these insecurities.
Yeah that's true.
Gotta do the work. Gotta do the work, people. That's what therapy's all about.
I was just about to head into that. You really do need to work on yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's coaches. That's why there's therapists.
Yeah, and there's no point in entering any kind of a relationship, whatever level that's on, if you're not working on yourself, because you're only bringing that experience or those experiences into a relationship that will just doom it, because people don't generally make it through that kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Work on your stuff, people.
Yeah.
I can't say it enough.
Totally. Especially, like a lot of people who go to therapists tend to be women. And I think I really want to encourage more men to get therapy and to do therapy. Like, we all need it. Like, we're all healing from a lot of wounds in our culture, and all of us had parents who did their best, but still, we all have trauma in our childhoods. And it's really important to have healthy relationships as adults, to really look at your patterns and to look at the ways you have an impact on people and to look at your defense mechanisms and understand what your triggers are because of, whatever your childhood wounding was or whatever. And yeah, like, that work is really important to do if you want to be in a really healthy relationship as an adult.
That leads me into the next question that we just received. What are some of the major causes or of hangups that people tell you about? Like, some of the things I'm assuming that are holding them back. Like, this has an example, like socioeconomic, being an only child, religion, past relationship, the way they look, things like that.
Well, yeah, all those things have a big impact. I mean, definitely, the people who reach out to me are reaching out to me for very particular reasons. Like, I talk a lot about religion or the impact that growing up Catholic had on me. And so people who are trying to make sense of their relationship to religion as adults in terms of sex and relationships, that's a big theme I see a lot. I see a lot of people feeling just shame about sex and desire in general, and a lot of people comparing themselves to social supposed tos, like, oh, well, I'm 30, I should be married by now, or like, I'm 28 and I'm a virgin and it's so embarrassing, and I really, really desire to watch my partner with somebody else. Does that make me a deviant or a pathetic person or whatever? And so, yeah, I definitely see a lot of people having shame comparing themselves to the image or the stereotype of how a person should be in this culture, which, I really think there's a lot of different ways people can be. And so I try to help people figure out what's right for them.
Yeah. I think that's so much fun. Like, you really get to help someone with the insight into themselves.
Yeah,
because we don't stop and ask ourselves like deeper questions. They're very surface level, like, that makes me uncomfortable. Well, why does it make you uncomfortable? And start asking those questions to go deeper into it to heal whatever that is.
Absolutely. And I think that being willing to look at discomfort and sit with your discomfort is so important for personal growth, but it's also important for the growth of our society. Like, we're dealing with a lot of racial injustice right now in America, especially, right? All around the world. And to be willing to look at your discomfort with like, oh, wow, what are the ways that like this racist system has impacted the way I think? Like, and it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable excavation to do, but it's very important for for the freedom of all people. Like, everyone's freedom depends on people with privilege looking at their, being a little uncomfortable and looking at their stuff, and if you're not willing to do that, then you are actually like trampling on the freedom of other people. Right. So like being with discomfort is like very important, if not a civic duty, but it's very important in your relationships too, because discomfort is just a part of being in relationship. Like no relationship is fully comfortable. Like all of our stuff is triggered by our partners because we're so scared of losing them. We see our shadow sides reflected in the people that we're most intimate with. And it's our job to be like, wow, I'm noticing like there's a pattern there. I'm seeing that my defense mechanisms are linked to this thing that happened to me earlier in life. And unlearning that through the mirrors of relationships is really medicine. It's really powerful.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
That is my favorite. Like those moments of, that's why I act the way I act.
Yeah.
And I love the mirrors in relationships and how we learn so much about ourselves through different experiences with a partner. Mm-hmm. I think as although it's challenging, a lot of times it's just magical.
Yeah.
The same
totally.
Regard.
Yeah.
Kind of shifting gears a little bit, but this question came across, and I already know the answer would be yes, but I want you to go a little deeper on how you would assist someone. But the question is, do you help someone that may have a clothing fetish like satin or silk? Like different things like that.
Yeah, I'm down to help people who are struggling with any kind of desire. I guess the question is like, is it debilitating? Like why, like what does help mean? Right. Like I'm always about defining like, what does it mean? Because like, does it mean, oh, I feel some embarrassment around this and there's social stigma around fetishes, so it needs to just go away? If so, your inquiry will fail, because that's just not how desire works. Like if your goal is to love yourself through this desire and find out ways to healthily manifest this desire in your life with moderation and within boundaries, then your inquiry will succeed with the right tools and with a coach like me, because desire is not something you can choose or unchoose. It's something that happens to you and you can manage your relationship to it, but you can't just make it go away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I mean, you, just like you said in the beginning of the show, you knew very young that you were not traditional.
Yeah.
And that only grew. It wasn't like it went away.
Yeah.
And the importance of connecting to that instead of ignoring it is so great.
Yeah. I mean, what other choice is there? You either thrive or you wither,
Well, a lot of people probably would choose the latter just because it's so scary to show up that way. I mean, I've seen it. I've done it. I think we've all done it at some point in our lives before we knew better.
Yeah. And there's ways to compromise, if you're like, okay, Janelle, well, like I'm a pastor of a conservative church and I have like family with kids and like, I'm just like really embarrassed of the fact that I like actually want kinky sex or whatever it is, then it's like, okay, so how do we find ways to healthily manage this desire in your life? Maybe it's just through fantasy or through self-pleasuring, with pornography that's about this desire, or whatever. And can you talk about it with your partner in a way that's like self-accepting and help them validate you even if they don't want to participate in it at all, right? Like there's ways to to take baby steps towards like having self-acceptance of a desire and managing it and having a healthy relationship to it, right? It's not like a all or nothing black or white thing where it's like, okay, either you're like super buttoned up and you completely repress all of your truth around like desire and sex, or you're like a crazy kiki maniac going to sex parties. You know, it's like, wow, there's such a spectrum of how we can interact with sex and relationships, and I like helping people figure out what's really right and possible for them.
Yeah, everything really would be like specialized into their own little unique relationship working with you, which I think is so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun.
Tell me about your thoughts on monogamy. Do you believe that it's possible for humans to be monogamous?
Totally. Yeah. Monogamy really works for some people, you know, and it doesn't work for other people. And there's lots of different ways people can show up in relationships and in sex. You know, people are gay, people are straight, some people are monogamous, really like fundamentally, and some people really fundamentally aren't. And that's okay. You know, I think, you know, people just need to know what works for them. And I think there's a lot that you can explore even within monogamy, right? Like there's this book called Designer Relationships, and they talk about 4 kinds of exclusivity. And whether you're in a quote unquote monogamous relationship or like a more open one, you can think about these 4 types of exclusivity. One of them is social, meaning do you and your partner have certain things you only do together? Like, you know, there's this show that only we watch together. If you watched it with someone else, I'd be hurt, right? Or like we always go to this restaurant together. If you went there with any other friend or partner or whoever, I would be hurt. Then there's sexual, of course, sexual exclusivity, which is pretty obvious, right? Like, but there's a lot even within sexual exclusivity. Like, do we consent to like having like flirty sexting relationships with other people as long as we don't actually have sex in person or like have sexy time in person, you know? So like there's a lot to negotiate around sexual exclusivity. And the other 2 are emotional and structural. So emotional exclusivity is we are only going to be like deeply emotionally entwined with each other. You know, some people will choose to be deeply entwined with multiple people and everyone on board is consenting to that, you know, and that doesn't have to involve sex either. Like some people can be really emotionally involved in a very intimate way without it being a sexual relationship. Mm-hmm. And then structural exclusivity is like, do we live together? Do we share finances? Do we live with like multiple adults? So like, for instance, me and my partner, we live down the street from each other. We live in 2 different places and we don't share finances, but we're very committed. You know, we're in a very serious relationship. So, you know, structurally, we're a little bit different than the quote unquote like standard narrative of like, you should like get married and live together in a house. And, you know, we're not doing that. Maybe we will, but we're not doing that right now. And that doesn't mean our relationship is any less than. So I think thinking about exclusivity and monogamy in terms of those 4 things, social, sexual, structural, and emotional, can be really helpful no matter what kind of relationship you're in. Like, hey, what do we really want here? How do we like really get clear on what our needs and boundaries are here?
I think it's a great way to like begin defining the relationships. So many of us jump into relationships and don't have those conversations where like both of us initially were like, no, we love being single. We want to be single. But then we find ourselves together all of the time and in this relationship format.
Right.
Not before we realize that we're there, and then we haven't really defined it, and we find ourselves like, this isn't what we wanted. And that's where problems occur.
Right.
So just having that platform, even from the beginning, would be really, really beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to encourage people to have these conversations, like no matter what kind of relationship structure you are in or you want, you know, like it doesn't even have to be like, we are non-monogamous, we are monogamous. It's like, hey, let's just talk about our expectations for exclusivity in these different kinds of ways and just see like what what feels right for you and what feels like a hell no or what feels like a hell yes to you in these areas, and where are maybes and where are questions we can continue to explore, and remembering that everything is up for negotiation together with honesty over time, because we are all constantly changing.
Yeah. Every time you've brought up your partner, you've talked about your relationship in such a beautiful way that I've always admired when people felt and thought that way, because it leaves it so open to choice. And you've made statements like that's where we're at right now, or that's how we feel today. And I've always believed that the more I've gotten clear with who I am and what I desire in relationships, like when I'm with someone, I'm choosing them today. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but it feels good right now, and we're both happy right now. So this is where we're at. But tomorrow, it could look different, and we just don't know. Like, instead of saying I'm going to be with this person forever, like they're my everything forever, I just feel like that adds so much unnecessary, I don't even want to say drama, but there is drama, but commitment that's maybe not really something desired. Like it's a have to instead of a want to.
Right. And I think, an important distinction to make is we're not saying here we're not going to try to make our relationship work. We're not going to put in the work, and we're not going to try to stay together. Right? I think people hear you and me saying stuff like that, some people, and will hear like, oh, these people are commitment or intimacy phobic. And I really think the core of what we're saying is not that. I think the core of what we're saying is we really want to choose each other, and we really want to actively earn this relationship, and not to stay and not to be complacent, and to really keep asking ourselves, like, is this relationship still serving you? Is it still serving me? How can we keep growing together? And I think having these conversations often makes you stay together longer, because you're really being intentional and really being like, how can we make this better? And so I think having this mindset can actually lead to even more long-term successful relationship, because of the emotional intimacy being developed.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it feels so good. I just love when we are able to have those conversations with each other and be like, it feels so good. Like, I want this more and more. So
absolutely.
What is the biggest thing that people come to you for in regards to relationship, like an issue or whatever that looks like in their relationship?
The most common thing people need help with is some kind of a mismatch with their partner, like sexual mismatch or desire mismatch around like what kind of relationship or what kind of sex they want to be having. I work with a lot of people in open relationships and ethical non-monogamy, because I talk a lot about that, and so people know I have a lot of tools about that. So yeah, those are really the most common things. I really like helping people overcome shame about their desires and really learn how to talk about them. I love helping people with communication, gaining more confidence with talking about what they want, and dealing with defense mechanisms, and owning their impact on people and acknowledging their defense mechanisms. And also, how do you communicate boundaries with people? I have a lot of people contacting me who need help and encouragement around expressing their boundaries. So lots of communication, lots of getting rid of shame and unlearning unhelpful stories about sex and relationships that create shame and are holding people back, and helping people make sense of certain mismatches in terms of libido and sexual desire and relationship desires.
Yeah. How would someone, in your opinion, learn how to find their desires or their passion after being numb or alone or whatever that looked like for so long?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And so many people are dealing with that right now because of quarantine and just the general state of the world. Like, things are so stressful right now. I think the first way I want to respond to that question is, it's okay to go through phases where you're kind of numb. And like, in fact, that's a defense mechanism your body is doing to protect yourself. And the first thing I want to say is, there's this, I think there's this Osho quote that's like, instead of trying to pry open the closed heart, can you bow to it? And what I think that means is sometimes you are feeling numb or you're feeling closed off to something and you are judging yourself, being like, why can't I just this be different? And that's not going to help. That's not going to make things better. The first thing is to have self-compassion and feel your discomfort and your disappointment that you're numb, and also to recognize that it's something that is a protection mechanism for you. And so to change your relationship to it and let yourself really feel it. And I like to lead people through visualizations where they imagine the sensations in their body, and they really tap into the numbness, and then imagine that those sensations are standing in front of them as some kind of a being or creature. And then I say, imagine you're sitting with that creature at a table and you're asking it what it needs from you. Like, what does your numbness and pain need from you? And what do you need from it? So I have people go through like a visualization journey around their pain and discomfort, and just try to love their way through it and have self-compassion, and instead of trying to stifle it or make it go away, being like, I see you, I honor you, So I think that's really important, being like, sometimes we go through phases where we're down and where we're numb, and instead of like trying to force ourselves to be different, can we honor that? So that's the first step, and that creates a spaciousness that's really valuable. And then from there, I think reconnecting to desire is really about like tapping into your senses. And instead of like thinking about like sex, like how do you focus on your sense of smell, on your sense of touch? Can you take a hot bath and listen to beautiful music? Can you listen to the birds and feel wind blowing through your hair and over your skin? How do you reconnect to your senses and slow down and take deep breaths and come home to your body and to the present moment? So that's like the next really powerful way to unnumb yourself after having like a self-compassion practice, is to really focus on your senses. So I hope those really things are helpful. Advice. Yeah.
I would think so. I think anytime you can connect to yourself on a different level, so that you can connect to yourself on the level that you need to connect to yourself on. I shouldn't even say need, but desire, whatever that looks like. What about for the other person in the relationship? Say you're with a partner and you want to support them while they're during their numb phase, but like your needs aren't getting met.
Right. So, there's two things there. One is really reframing physical connection from having sex to being about, can we cuddle? Can we massage each other? Or can the person who's numb be touched and massaged in a non-sexual way by their partner? For the partner who's feeling like their needs are not being met, this can also be powerful. Like if the person who's feeling numb is willing to even just like eye gaze with them and just take some deep breaths, or cuddle them or massage them or play with their hair, like so much physical connection is possible, and it's often rushed over en route to sex. And it's really important to come home to like non-sexual physical touch for a lot of people. I think it's also really important for the partner who is sexually frustrated to be able to just talk about it vulnerably with their partner without it being an ask, or without them being like, okay, I'm trying to guilt trip you and I'm forcing you into doing this. So I work with clients on holding space for each other's disappointment in a loving way without feeling like either of them needs to fix or change anything, which is a pretty radical concept in this culture that's very solution oriented. But, I'll have a couple, and I'll have the person who wants things to be different just say, I'm feeling some pain right now that I want to have sex more than you do. And it's just like, it really makes me feel rejected. And then the other person will say, yeah, I totally get it. It's really hard. I wish I wanted to have sex more, instead of feeling like I need to get defensive or we need to go into problem solving mode. Like, just witness your partner in their disappointment. Just hold some space for that and just validate them without you feeling like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. I'm doing something wrong. I need to change. That's not really useful in that moment. Like, in that moment, let them feel their disappointment that things aren't different, and you can feel your disappointment too. Together. And then that really helps to dissipate it. And it really helps to take the pressure off,
Yeah. And I can see how it would disconnect you on a whole other level as well, which could be beautiful. Yeah, and maybe that's part of the disconnect for the other person, is they weren't feeling that connection. So again, communication, it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So much of sexual mismatch is often about emotional connection. That can be huge. And also, like, yeah, you need to reframe what success is, right? Because, like, we think, oh, well, we should be having sex like every week or else our sex life is doomed or whatever. And, like, really, that's just not realistic for a lot of people. Some people are not going to have sex every week, and some people are going to have sex every day. And I mean, whatever, like, and it's really difficult when you and your partner have, like, vastly different needs, but being able to just talk about it vulnerably and hold space and validate each other's feelings and just be like, yeah, I get it, without problem solving in that moment can really help to connect and diffuse the tension around it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be insensitive and giggle, but it just makes me laugh. It's very real for some people, but I'm probably on the other side of it, where I'm like, they're probably like, okay, enough already. Like, give me a break. But I don't know. It's a thing. So I have, you have been talking, we have several questions that have come in.
Great.
And they're all over the place, Janelle.
Wow, cool.
So we're just bouncing back and forth, and they're just curious about you. So some are relationship questions, some are questions about your experiences. So let's see. Okay, here's one. What changes have you seen men looking for in their partner 20 years ago versus now?
What I really notice is people really want to feel seen by their partners. They really want to feel desired by their partners. That's something I hear from men a lot. And I think that wanting to feel desired is something that men, younger men definitely want, and older men really want that too. But I think that there's then this added element after 20 years of, like, really wanting to feel seen and understood by their partner. And so, I think that although desire is difficult to tap into after 20 years for some people, feeling seen and understood is very possible. And in fact, desire can often come from that, right? Because as I've said, like, emotional connection can often re-spark a libido issue, unless the libido issue is medical or based on drinking or SSRIs, because antidepressants can cause that, right? But yeah, like, a lot of libido issues can be from just feeling disconnected from yourself or disconnected from your partner. So really coming home to your body and to your senses and to connecting emotionally with your partner through non-sexual physical intimacy. These things are really important. And so, I think I hear a lot of men just, like, wanting to feel, seen and appreciated and desired, whereas younger men definitely want to feel desired. And I'm not sure how important it is for them to feel, like, seen and accepted, although I'm sure that is still important, but it's something I hear from a lot of people who've been with partners for a long time. So,
I could see that. I've witnessed that. In the line of work that I do, that is definitely a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question. Do you think people cling on to others hoping everything will work out and are afraid of the opposite happening?
Yeah, Totally. And I think there's nothing wrong with wanting an attachment person. In fact, we all need attachment people. We're social animals and we literally need each other to survive. And we live in a very individualistic cowboy culture that says, you shouldn't need anyone but yourself. And, there's a lot of people who are quick to judge people as being codependent in this culture. Like even, professionals like therapists, there's a lot of, quickly pathologizing codependence. And I think, that needs to be taken with a grain of salt. And we all need people. We all need each other. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I definitely am one of those people. I like to have a people or people. I like to have a person or people.
Yeah. And, to fully answer the question, like, yeah. And sometimes people will use other people as a crutch and they won't really be able to take care of themselves and like do the work to love themselves. But I also think, you also need to have strong attachment relationships with other people. And, there's only so far you can get with really like loving yourself for some of us. I mean, like I said, I went through a period of being solo poly where I was my own primary partner, but I still needed the relationships of my family and my friends and my community. And so, so I, as with all things, I challenge the framing of that question, which is like, is there like judgment in our culture around people needing other people? Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, what is the strangest thing that you've been asked, and what is the creepiest?
Oh, wait, what was the second part of the question?
What is the creepiest?
Oh.
So you can just answer one of them. We have many other questions. So.
Well, I mean, creepy, like, I don't think anything's creepy unless it's unconsensual. So like one time in a coaching session with a man in person, he grabbed my ass without consent. And that was very creepy to me. Like, I don't label creepy onto people's desires because I think that's part of where shaming culture comes from. So I just think I think creepy is when you do something to someone unconsensually that they did not want. So that was very creepy. But the funniest thing that I've ever worked on with someone was, or the most interesting was someone had a small member humiliation fetish. I don't know if I can say the P word of the male genitalia. Okay, yeah. Small member humiliation fetish. And he wanted to, he felt very embarrassed of the fact that like he had a fetish around wanting a woman to tell him he had a button mushroom or a baby carrot or a tiny pencil like you'd find at a mini golf course between his legs. And he was very humiliated about this, but like part of the turn on was the humiliation. And so, I worked with him on just accepting that is a fetish for him and trying to find healthy ways to get that in his life. And he didn't want to ask his partner to do that with him. So we tried to find, ways for him to, certain, porn that he could watch that would be fun for him and how to create it as like, just a thing he got aroused by when he was self-pleasuring. And just like, how do you let go of shame around this so that this doesn't control you and become this like toxic thing that's literally just totally distracting you? Just be like, okay, I'm managing this. I'm creating a healthy relationship with this desire. So we worked on that.
Yeah, that would be a different one. Yeah. Considering the rest of your clients are coming from much different conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Is there such a thing as talking too much about this stuff with your partner?
I think there is.
Does it ever become unhealthy?
I think that if it's unconsensual, like if one person's like, I really don't have the emotional availability or bandwidth for this, then like you have to honor taking breaks. And, there's been research showing that sometimes people will change the subject during conflict or emotional processing. And sometimes that will infuriate the other person. Like, why are you changing the subject? But people actually need space to lower their blood pressure. And that's why they'll change the subject or take a break. And so I think, we need to normalize rest. As I said earlier, we need to normalize taking breaks, and it's okay to be like, I just don't have the emotional capacity to keep having this conversation, but I see that it's important to you. Let's talk about it tomorrow, right? Like, name a boundary lovingly and while acknowledging that you see it's important to them, but you just can't keep talking about it right now. So just not shame them for that, but be like, how about we revisit this tomorrow? Like, because I really can't, So I think that over processing can be very possible if, one or both of you have really reached exhaustion and you're not willing to set a boundary.
Yeah. Yeah. Great answers. You're killing it with the question. I have more.
Job, baby.
I'm surprised, actually, chat room. I'm very impressed by you tonight. We have a lot of questions. Cool. I'm pleasantly surprised and very happy that they're being asked. Here's another question. The question is, how much sex is considered to be obsessive and could be detrimental to the relationship if that becomes the main importance of that relationship?
I mean, the question I hear behind that question is, am I okay with what my partner is wanting? So if you are asking that question, you're probably feeling that there's a boundary that's coming up for you in your relationship. You're probably feeling unseen or unmet, or you're feeling steamrolled by your partner, and you're not establishing what you really want, or you're not establishing boundaries. So I really want to reframe the question, which is often what I do, from how much sex is too much, to what do you really want? What do you really want in your relationship, and how can you be honest about that with your partner?
Okay, well, I'm getting some feedback from the person. They're saying that's not it. It is like how much is considered to be obsessive. Like if you both were into it just as much, but is there a line? Like, I cannot use my words tonight. Is there something as too much of a good thing? You know what I mean?
I think I think that can be it if it's getting in the way of your life and of your responsibilities, right? I don't really have like an answer that's true universally. But I think
individual.
Yeah, if you are not getting your work done, if you're not adhering to your responsibilities, if it's getting in the way of your life, if it's getting in the way of your relationship, because one person feels hurt by it, which it sounds like in your case isn't happening. But yeah, it can be, if it's causing detriment, then yeah, it can be over. But there's no like number I can just give you of like, okay, if you're having sex 3 times a day, then it's too much. It's like, I don't know you. I don't know your life, like your responsibilities. I don't know how long these sex episodes are.
I feel like some people would consider like it to become an activity that is occurring so much that it could become unhealthy, regardless of the consequences of getting the dishes done or going to work or whatever that looks like.
I mean, that could definitely be true. And I think that's different for different people. And like, sex addiction is real for some people. And it's also a pathologizing term that we slap onto people who enjoy sex, or partners will slap onto their partners for wanting more sex than them. So I'm really wary of pathologizing anything. But yeah, work on it with a therapist if you feel like it's a problem in your relationship.
Another question would be, between partners, is it important to maintain sexual tension, to feed and maintain that desire?
Yeah, if that's something that you both want, but like some people are pretty happy being in non-sexual relationships. Like it really depends on what you want. But yeah, if you want to have a long-term sexual relationship with someone, maintaining desire is important. And there's a great book called Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel about that, which is all about basically, when we live with people and we see them all the time, our bodies like start to associate them as like family members, and there's perhaps like a biological mechanism that kicks in that like you don't have attraction to your family members for obvious reasons. And so that can happen. And so what she says in the book is it's really important to maintain some level of mystery with your partner by continuing to invest in yourself, to spend time by yourself and with other family and friends, with other people, to have your own separate hobbies, to not do everything together, to really have your own separate identity from your partner is what she really recommends, so that there's still some mystery there of like, oh, wow, like look at my partner, like, out sitting on the lawn, like doing a painting, like, wow, they're a different person from me. Like, I would never do that. Like, that's sexy, right? So that's one thing she recommends, I think is really important. And then, yeah, maintaining emotional intimacy can also be important, but, it's not totally true that sex and desire are linked to emotional intimacy. They can be linked, but I think her advice about investing in yourself and having quality alone time is actually really important for keeping that rub alive of a little bit of mystery and, not being totally interdependent or totally codependent. Yeah.
Such great advice.
Yeah.
Definitely. Though they're all important things to consider and to even practice.
Mm-hmm.
I love all of everything you're sharing.
Thank you.
I'm sitting here wishing we were like on a podcast, not live radio tonight, because I have all of these questions I keep holding back. I'm like, oh, I better not. Oh, I better not. So
yeah.
I'm sure I can just browse through your TikTok and find a lot of these. But all these questions are coming from our chat room. Again, guys, great questions. I love the interaction tonight.
That's awesome.
It is so good. We still have about 5-6 more minutes, and I'd love for you to share. I mean, we've just barely talked about the things that you do or conversations that you have, but there are several other things we didn't get to, I'm sure. I mean, I know you do a lot more. So is there any other tidbits or advice or inspiration or anything else you want to leave us with for the next?
Well, I would love to tell people how they can find me again, which is on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and my website is all Love with Janel. So Janel is spelled Jane with an L. And I'm just in the process of closing registration for a open relationship course. So I've been creating a lot of online courses. So hop on my mailing list or go to my website to find out about, the latest courses that I'm doing. And I also offer private coaching, but I'm actually going to take a break from offering private coaching pretty soon. So if you want to apply for coaching with me, now is your chance at lovewithjanel.com. And any last tidbits of advice. I mean, I think really having, as I said earlier, having self-compassion for the things that you want and for your desires, and having self-compassion for your defense mechanisms and how they play out in relationships. If I really want one thing for the world, it's less judgment and shame of other people, which often comes from judgment and shame of yourself. So I really invite everyone to do the work of excavating and unlearning self-judgment and self-shame and self-blame, and to have self-compassion, because that's really how we're gonna have such a big impact on others, right? Is like putting your own oxygen mask on first and learning to love yourself more.
Oh, yes, it all does begin with us.
Yeah, it really does.
It does. We still have more time. I'm curious about your time with the Somatica Institute.
Yeah,
I've heard about them. And what was that like? What was that experience?
They're amazing. It's an incredible training program around sex and relationships. Highly recommend it. A Somatica method's really cool. It's like it's different than talk therapy. It's all about experiential exercises, and the idea being that with sex and relationships, talk therapy can only get you so far. So, as I mentioned, I will have my clients do embodiment exercises like meditations and visualizations. I will assign clients exercises like, massaging each other, sensual massages. I'll assign, I mean, they're not doing it in front of me, but, I'll assign clients like, okay, now your homework's going to be to like have, cuddle time. And sometimes I'll assign them exercises they will do in front of me with clothes on. Like I'll have clients do erotic wrestling with each other and just like pin each other to the ground and take deep breaths and just feel the playfulness and the fun of that physical connection that's fully clothed, or I'll have clients do eye gazing. So a lot of that I learned from the Somatica method, which is, again, all about experiential exercises for deeper intimacy and connection and greater knowing around desire and sexuality.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I highly recommend them. If you want to get sex and relationship coaching certification, they're definitely the place to go.
Well, I'm going to keep it in mind because, I still have a lot of things I want to do in life. And this has always been on my radar. So who knows? Who knows what I'm going to do?
Totally. Yeah. Well, if you say you found out about it through me, you'll get a discount.
Well, discounts are good.
Yeah.
Again, everyone, I want to make sure you go and check out all of the things with Janel. That's Love with Janel, Janel. That's her website. That's all of her social media, all the things. Thank you again for being here. It really has been a pleasure. And I love getting to know more about you and all the magic that you're creating.
Thank you so much, AJ. It's so wonderful to be on Soul Wanderings. And thank you so much to everyone who is listening and who is commenting. I really appreciate all of you being here, and I'd love to know, what you thought about this. There's a contact form on my website if you want to shoot me a message and just let me know like anything that stood out to you or anything that you found difficult or interesting. I love getting people's feedback. Or you can DM me on Instagram.
Awesome. I love that. We love interaction.
Totally.
And as always, everyone, you can email me at connect@soulwanderings.com. I love the emails I get every week, and I reply to each and every one of you. So it's fun. It's a good time. Make sure you guys are staying close. Richard Dolan's on Jimmy Church tonight following my program. And I wish you all a beautiful week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you next week, everyone. Good night.
Bye.